Hello, my name is Debra Harris. I'm the Burn Program Coordinator for the North Coast Unified Air Quality Management District. Today I'm going to introduce you to the Burn Permit and Smoke Management Program for the district. The North Coast Unified Air Quality Management District jurisdiction is 3 counties, Humboldt, Delaware, and Trinity. We have the primary responsibility for air pollution from stationary sources, which includes burning. We enforce federal, state, and local air quality regulations. The following slide includes information about our different types of burn permits available. We're going to focus today on just those that apply to burns with a smoke management plan. The fees associated with burning for a smoke management plan are based on the amount of acres burned in a calendar year and not on the size of the property. Fees for burn permits with smoke management plans are funded using state grant funds. District burn permits are also required year-round. CAL FIRE only requires their permits during fire season. Burns with smoke management plans may apply for no-burn day permits to burn on a no-burn day. To obtain a no-burn day permit application, you can contact the district or find it on our website. You'll see the 5 categories of burning on the right. Less than an acre is a $40 permit with a $65 smoke management plan fee. With the grant funds available to pay for the fees and the burn permit, that will subsidize your cost of $105. The burn permit is good for a calendar year. The smoke management plan is good for 2 years. Then they go all up from burning 1 acre to 10 acres for $80 per year, and from more than 10 to less than 100 at $250, and burning over 100 but less than 300 is $500. Burning over 300 acres in a calendar year is $1,250 with no smoke management application fee nor no burn day permit application. The majority of the burns that are over 300 acres are the Forest Service, BLM, CAL FIRE, veg management plans, and other large commercial burns such as timber companies. So we're going to talk about obtaining a burn permit. I'm only going to discuss today those permits that apply to a smoke management plan. Because the grant waiver package paying for the burn permit fees and application fees has to be filled out before the grant could be applied, you cannot use the online portal to get a burn permit. If you plan on getting a smoke management plan, or if you want to talk to the district about seeing if you have to have a smoke management plan, please always give us a call to talk with us about your planned burn so we can let you know whether or not your burn qualifies. The smoke management plan application can be found on our website. You can also obtain it by contacting the district. The application and packet must be filled out to obtain the burn permit. And if you have any questions about the application or the process, please always call us. So now we go into discussing the smoke management plan. The first page involves instructions. I advise you to take a good look at these instructions. And if you're unsure about anything on the form, please call or email me. My contact information is listed on the screen. Important to note that on this application information is the checklist. This checklist is important because it'll let you know what things you have to have submitted to get a smoke management plan and a burn permit. Most important, all 3 pages of the application, including a map of the property, must be filled out and provided with your application. The second page of the smoke management plan is for project information. The top portion contains contact information and information about the property owner. Always remember, if you have questions or need help, you can always call. We're happy to help. please complete all the information on this form, as it helps us to identify all the information we need to evaluate your project. Of note, at the bottom is a request where you put in information regarding smoke-sensitive areas within a 5-mile radius of your project. This is for burns that are less than 100 acres. A sensitive receptor can be a school, a major highway, a subdivision, a hospital, doctor's office, or subdivision or major population center. So that is what you need to put at the bottom. I would suggest you put refer to spreadsheet, because the spreadsheet has larger area to spread out and include this information. Page 2 of the information portion of the smoke management plan begins with item 10 and 11. These two items are usually where we have the most confusion. Number 10 involves meteorological prescription. These are the conditions we want you to provide us with the information you feel will be necessary to have a successful burn. This would be wind speed, wind direction. Always note it's the direction the wind is coming from, because that is the direction that the wind is coming from and will blow the smoke to. We evaluate the smoke impact, so it's where your smoke is going. We also like to see information on speed, and some people use a maximum speed they would not burn above. So anything you feel that would help us evaluate your project about the weather forecasting, inversion conditions, that's where you place it in number 10. Number 11, this is where if smoke impacts occur, what are you going to do? The standard phrase I like in here is, you will cease ignition and manage the burn to reduce smoke using fans and blowers. You will also extinguish if required by the fire department or air quality. This is basically that you agree that if we have smoke impacts, and we will contact you if we receive complaints or if there are questions about your burn, we will contact you and find out how your burn is going, what your smoke is doing. We will ask you questions like, have you gone off site to look at the direction of your smoke travel? What's your burn look like? How much consumption are you getting? We want to work with you to get your project done as quickly as possible with the least amount of impact. So actions, that's number 12. Examples, these are where you place examples of what you're doing to reduce the fuel load before you burn. Some people choose to chip or coal firewood. Some choose to lop and scatter and then just burn certain large piles of material. In this part, you'd list all the things you've chosen to do, like tarp your piles, remove all the stumps, and the other information. I would suggest adding that all piles will be clean and no stumps over 18 inches, because this is a requirement of the smoke management plan. The final part of this is notification. This is determined by your sensitive receptors. You are responsible for your smoke once it leaves your property. If you're standing right at the burn site and you evaluate your smoke and you look, oh, it's going up, it's looking good. Have you had someone take a look off your property to see if it's looping up, going up in the sky off your property, then looping down, going into an area it shouldn't? It's a good idea for you to make sure you have all the information about your burn so you can respond if someone calls you, and you can also be a good neighbor and manage your smoke. The last sheet is the smoke management plan spreadsheet. This page is important in that it is where we put all the information needed in one place. So when you call in for a burn authorization, we look the sheet up, and all the information needed to give you a burn authorization is at our fingertips. The first column on the left-hand side would be project name. If you have a large ranch, you have upper pasture, lower paddock, all different kinds of locations. If you just have a burn location, you're a logger burning for a client, you could have the client's last name as the project name. But some projects have more types of burning in them, such as broadcast burning, pile burning, landing piles, hand piles. So these lines on this, you can use more than one line for a project. But if you have different sites, use different lines so we can keep the information straight. So it would be the project name, then the project burn location. You can use either a legal description, an AP number, a Latin long, or a physical address. Now, the next column over is to identify whether your burn is broadcast or piles. The next item over is acres, the number of acres in your total project. Say you do a 3-acre conversion, you log 2 acres. The whole parcel may be 20 acres, but your job encompasses just 2 acres. You would put 2 acres in this column. If you had more than one type of burn, you would list the number of acres for each type, such as 2 acres of piles from logging, and then 40 acres of broadcast at another location with a different name. The next column over is the number of piles estimated for that 2 acres of logged. Then the pile size. So say you have 10 by 10, 20 foot, 15 foot. I would encourage you to consider when you're making your project plans to consider making your piles large enough to get the material done, but small enough to be manageable. You can always feed a pile from a larger pile. This allows you more flexibility. If it's a good burn day, you can light more piles or you can continue feeding the pile. The thing is not to get too much going and then you have a problem and it's a problem to put out. You can always get another burn number. I like to work with burners, if conditions are good, to get the material burned as quickly as possible. So it's a give and take. You provide good information and communication, we can get your project completed quicker. The next column over is the wind prescription from number 10 on the information sheet. This is the location where you list what type of wind direction you want for your project. So say your burn project has a school that is to the north, and it's a quarter mile to the school from your burn location. You would not want a south wind to blow your smoke into the school. So you determine your wind direction based on what's around your property, sensitive receptor-wise. This is where you would put that information. The last column on the right, this is remarks. This is where you need to identify sensitive receptors. Once again, you have that school to the north. You would put the Sunnybray Middle School is 3/4 of a mile north of your burn location. Then you could list Arcata is to the west, 3.6 miles. So you go down the list and you list all the projects. If there is nothing within 5 miles, then you put no sensitive receptors. Just know that I am going to look at this information and compare it to my mapping and the satellite photos that I have. So this is the spreadsheet. That's where you put your information in there and submit it to us. Also included in this smoke management plan application packet will be a waiver request for grant funds to pay for your permit fees and your smoke management plan application fees. Make sure you fill that one out and include it with your smoke management plan. There is also a burn permit application that you need to complete. This will let us know how much you plan on burning for your project. You make your determination on your acreage based on what you plan on burning. Some people are registered professional foresters and they do 3-acre exemptions. Other people are have ranches and do range management. They also do timber harvest, have different types of burning. So you list the types and acres and total that up, and that determines your burn permit fee. and you complete that information on your burn permit application. You submit all that at once. And then you're required to have a smoke management plan map. If you do have a problem producing a map, you can always contact me. I would be happy to help you make a map. Depending on what type of programs you have available, some government agencies have people that make their mapping for them. Other people use Google Earth. Some people have mapping from their title companies. Whatever you have, it needs to be a 5-mile radius, bird's eye view of your property and whatever is around it for 5 air miles. And that's for less than 100 acres. When you get to over 100 acres for a project, that mapping view needs to be 20-mile radius. I like to see 2 maps, one with the 5-mile radius and then one with a closer in view so I can see what's in the immediate vicinity, and it helps me to find your property. You have to understand the audience you're going to present your project to. We don't get out into the field, very seldom anyway, and you are presenting your project and the information necessary for someone who is in an office to look at what you're submitting and say, oh, this person is going to do a 3-acre conversion. He wants piles that are 20 foot in diameter. Here's his map. These are the hours he wants to burn per day or over 5 days. We need the information so we can look at the paperwork and say, oh, okay, this looks reasonable. The smoke should travel this way. We look at the terrain near your property, and we make our evaluations and make our corrections. Once we sign off on the plan, we will send it back to you. And this is the point where you take a look at what we've approved and ask any questions. Once you have your approved smoke management plan and burn permit, then you go into the burn authorization stage. A burn authorization number can be obtained from the district up to 3 days in advance. Burn authorizations are required prior to each ignition. Burn authorizations can be obtained by calling or online by email, and you need to think ahead when you're planning. If you get a burn authorization, that does not mean you have to use it. You can choose not to burn if conditions are not conducive to your burn. However, you do have to have that burn authorization before you can ignite. You need to know when you're planning to do your burning, how much you want to burn, what the weather forecast is for that day. So make sure you check your sources of weather, which is also one of the questions on your smoke management plan. And make sure that the forecast matches your smoke management plan. And then you need to confirm that it's a burn day. If forecast conditions don't meet the requirements of your smoke management plan, you can still call the district to discuss the possibility of burning. Forecasts are just that. We all understand that the weather changes. I'm always willing to let you do a test pile to see what your smoke will do. This is often good because if conditions are good or it is outside the forecast, then you can do a successful burn that day. On the other side of it, if you do the test pile usually, and if forecast is holding true, you can see that, oh yeah, my smoke is not getting up and out. Today is not a good day for me to burn. So then you can put it away for another day. So on the day of ignition, if I've given you a burn authorization number several days in advance, you're responsible for checking the burn day status. You do this by calling the phone number that's on your permit and making all required notifications to the fire district, to the CAL FIRE or U.S. Forest Service, depending on your location. If you are near a school or other sensitive receptor, that will be a requirement that you call to provide notification. If a school is closed, you leave a voicemail message, but I still request that you make a notification so that at least if someone is there, they have an idea if there's smoke in their area, who to call to find out what's going on. You can always leave them our number. I'm happy to tell people that this burn is approved by the district and it meets the conditions of the smoke management plan. Communication is a really important part of a successful burn. The more I hear from you about the status of your burn, the more I feel comfortable in expanding the amount of acres you can burn or discussing with you conditions on site, and together we work to get your burn done successfully. So as I said before, when you evaluate the smoke from your burn, you can do it at the site, but I always recommend that if you have someone else that can go outside the property location to a good vantage point to see where it's going once it leaves the property, because you are responsible for your smoke. It is also a good idea to provide updates to the district regarding status of your burn, both good and bad. We're here to work with you to accomplish your burn successfully while protecting the public health. Get the word out about your burn. Build goodwill and inform the public about your plans. You have nearby neighbors, give them a flyer. Put a community posting at the post office. So some large burns in hundreds of acres, notifications to a local blog or website, local news media, press release. However you can get the word out about your burn. This is most important when you are in a populated area. Depending on fuel type and the number of acres, larger burns can burn in isolated areas with very little impact. However, when you get closer to sensitive receptors, you have to be very careful and pay attention to the parameters of your burn: weather, terrain, fuel loading. Communication is key. I can't help you as much as I want to if I don't know what's going on with your burn. This doesn't mean I'm going to babysit you and ask for an update every 5 minutes. I trust you to know what you're doing when you burn. Your smoke management plan gives me the information necessary to know you know the parameters under which to burn. Tips and tricks. So when you're submitting your forms, consider your audience. District staff is just not familiar with every location in our 3-county area. You know your site better than anyone, and you need to relay that information about your project. We can only evaluate the information that you provide. Make sure to fill out all the questions before submitting your documents. And when in doubt about a question or you have a concern about why we want a certain amount of information, call us. We'll be happy to work with you. One tip is don't wait until the last minute to submit your forms. Most burners know they need a burn permit, or if they have a 3-acre conversion, they've submitted logging plans to the CAL FIRE and other agencies. This is the time, if you choose to use fire to dispose of your fuels, you need to consider getting the appropriate paperwork in line so that you can get that in and be ready when you get to burn. If you've hired a contractor or registered professional forester, then make sure to ask about your slash disposal. Registered professional foresters are required to dispose of the slash associated with projects unless the property owner takes legal responsibility in writing. Know who is going to be responsible for handling that slash material. Also discuss with your forester and your burner the size of your piles. Make sure they are aware of what you're comfortable with and what fits for your site. Most plans can be processed quickly, but depending on the time of year and workload, it might take longer. The maximum time allowed is 30 days. The last slide I have here is reporting requirements. Burners are required to track the amount of material that they burn. Let us know the number of acres burned, tons, and fuel type, and county location of the burn. This information is submitted to the State Air Resources Board for the grant funding and also for emissions inventory information. So when you do get a smoke management plan and start doing your burn ignitions and burn authorizations, keep track of what you accomplish daily and submit this information. You're going to need to submit this information quite regularly to the district, as we need this information to report quarterly. It's recommended that burners keep a log of burn authorizations and acres and piles accomplished, so they know when they're required to submit this information, they have it at hand. If you keep a log and you want to use it as your smoke management plan spreadsheet, if you're familiar with different types of spreadsheets, you're welcome to submit a spreadsheet in place of the district form. If you have questions about that, you can call me and I'll be happy to help you keep track of the appropriate information. Another form of reporting requirement we're handling now is the Prescribed Fire Information Reporting System, or PFIRS. PFIRS is an online smoke management system that is run by the State Air Resources Board. The district is in the process of implementing PFIRS for large burners, such as the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, etc. Burners using PFIRS submit their smoke management plans, receive authorizations, and report acreage information, all online using this reporting system. At this time, the district anticipates running both PFIRS and its own smoke management program. PFIRS training will be provided locally once the COVID requirements are lifted. The level at which PFIRS will be required for large burners has not yet been determined, as we were still working out the bugs for the Forest Service and CAL FIRE. At this time, we don't have a line where we will require PFIRS reporting for smaller burns. This concludes the information that I have for you, and I hope, if anything, you take away from this that the district is willing and able to work with you to have a successful burn project. Please contact us with any questions or assistance that we may provide. Thank you for your time and patience.